Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about the best headphone amplifier that Topping has to offer. It's called A90D, and D comes from discrete, meaning that the modules, amplifying modules that Topping is proud of, NFCAs, are all done with discrete electronic components here. And I won't go into details too much here, but many audiophiles believe that using discrete components in the output stage improves performance compared to just using chips, op amps, etc. But yeah, Topping introduced a discrete version of their A90. And beside that, there are some others improvement here. And for example, volume control is not using a potentiometer, but R2R network. And why is that important? Well, R2Rs are more precise, and especially when you need to balance left and right channel carefully, because maybe you have sensitive in-ears that at lower volumes with a traditional potentiometer, there could be a noticeable volume difference between left and right channel, and that's more precise using R2R. Balance is always perfect. And if you plan on using it for a long time, unlike analog potentiometers that can deteriorate with time, R2R volume network will not. Then another thing worth mentioning in my opinion is that this unit will remember your volume setting. And it will remember different volume settings for the headphone output, for the preamp output on the back, and for combined preamp and headphone output. And that's quite neat in my opinion, because this way you don't have to worry about where did you left the volume last time you used this device, because you maybe have used different output, and yeah, that can be quite annoying and yeah, not pleasant when the volume is shared. So good stuff. And let's just quickly go over connections. You have single-ended inputs and balanced inputs, and also you have preamp outputs that are single-ended and balanced. So you can just use this one to pass the signal to some other hi-fi component, maybe a power amp for your speakers. But what most of us will probably be using this Topping A90D for is as a headphone amplifier, and in the front we can find a single-ended 6.35 millimeters output, then balanced 4.4 and also balanced XLR, which gives great connectivity and versatility to this unit. And now I won't read tech specs and tell you the exact numbers and distortion and things like that. Everything looks really great on paper. What's important for us as the end user is that power rating of this unit is really high, and it does feel when you actually start using it. I don't know, it's some like insanely high number, I'll put that on the screen. But no matter what impedance of your headphones is and what the exact number of the power that you're going to extract from this unit with those headphones, I felt that no matter what I connected to A90D, it has plenty of drive and plenty of control. And that kind of control and easiness, driving any headphone so easily, comes from great power and from great control of the unit. And A90D definitely has it. Just before we move to the sound section of this review, I wanted to mention one thing. You might be tempted to make a great looking stack of Topping D90 LE or SC and A90D, and it's a great idea too, because their sizes and looks and everything matches, and it makes for a really nice looking stack. Not only nice looking, but great sounding. This is a great sounding stack. But if you do that, keep in mind that both of these units get quite warm when working. And I didn't like the solution where you make a stack like this one, directly one on top of the other. I actually had to divide them with some small pieces of wood to make a little bit more ventilation and air circulation between these two, because especially the unit that's on the bottom it will get quite warm. So keep this in mind. Don't try making a stack like this directly, but use some sort of small hi-fi rack, desktop hi-fi rack, or simply like block of woods like these. Okay, just a moment. Like these small block of woods. I use these, put them like hit this. Okay, let me show you when I'm doing this already. Like this. It still looks very nice, but now I have this clearance and neither of these two units is getting too hot. So just have this in mind. So let's talk sound. Well, I connected A90D to my regular setup and I've tried several headphones, including Gold Planner GL2000s that are still my favorite headphones, then VRM One, some Beyerdynamics, etc., etc. And as I mentioned just before, when I talked about power, probably the first thing to notice is the grip and control that this amp has over any headphone. Even if those are known to be a little bit bassy and difficult to control when it comes to bassline and how precise it is, A90D will do great job in keeping everything tidy, punchy. Don't get me wrong, the bassline on A90D goes deep, it's really punchy, but it has great grip and great control. Nothing is blooming and sounding fatty and bloated. And the similar story continues with the mid-bass, mid-range, highs. Everything is always so well controlled, and that also continues to the feel that tones are really well focused, well separated, and there's quite a bit of empty space around them. Now, when it comes to the sound staging, I felt that it's pretty widespread. Lots of empty space, but I didn't notice a feeling that the sound stage is deep. This is, in my opinion, a forward-sounding amp. So all leading edges and notes and everything will sound close to you and forward, but it will be spread out and well layered, well separated. Tonally speaking, it's very neutral. I couldn't notice anything that would make me think that this amp sounds dark or bright or sharp and aggressive in the mid-range, or maybe like a little bit fat and warm in the bassline, but also not lean and thin in the bassline. Everything just feels really correct and accurate and okay with this amp. Dynamics is great, control is great, detail retrieval is great, but I can't notice any specific tonality, any specific pros or cons for that matter. So I said like, okay, that's it. I have to compare it to other amps that I had at hands to actually see what it's all about. And just for fun, and because I was able to do this, I compared the most affordable L30 just recently released L30 head amp with A90D. And I have to tell you, there is no comparison. L30 sounds really good and detailed and actually quite full compared to its predecessor L30, but when you put something of this level as A90D into a mix and make a direct comparison, you just notice that A90D creates much bigger soundstage around you. There is a sense of air and empty space and around each tone. And because of that, there's also greater clarity, but not in a sharp way. Don't think about clarity of edges and sharpness, but just overall clarity. You hear a tone that's more wholesome. You hear main tone and edge with more energy and slightly cleaner than through L32, but also aftertone, tone timbre, tone texture, everything is more prominent and richer. Because of that, you feel that there is in general lusher, thicker tone with more empty space around it with more darkness behind it, and you hear more tone decay, more tone color. Everything feels just richer and more lifelike. Like there's suddenly more to the sound, and it's also more incisive but richer sounding, bigger, lusher, fuller sounding with A90D. And L32 feels like creating a slightly simplified truth of the tone. On its own, it sounds very clean and there's little to complain about it, but you just notice that there is more richness and more stuff going on in each and every tone that you just cannot notice through L32. But then I moved to pricier and more powerful A30 Pro. Again, in Topping's line, but this one is $350. And I kept this one for maybe a year and a half already with me because I kept it as a reference amplifier at this price point. And as you probably know, I'm not too much of a headphone guy. I like using headphones from time to time. I like having a good DAC and amp in my hi-fi setup, but I'm definitely not a type of guy that uses very expensive hi-fi gear. I felt this is quite good enough for me. I liked its sound. A30 Pro has slightly warmer and maybe slightly darker sound up top than some toppings before it. It's definitely not thin or analytical sounding, and that's why I liked it. But it is a powerful solid-state amp with great punch, great control. And when I've listened to A90D for some time, and as I said, it sounded just right and correct, and everything was decently spacious and tonally correct, and then I moved back to A30 Pro, I just noticed that everything became just a little bit more hazy and blurry, and the soundstage congested ever so slightly. And if you would talk about absolute differences, I cannot tell you if A90D is like 10 or 15% more spacious sounding. But when you actually add that A30 Pro sounds a little bit smaller, a little bit more congested in general, but then instruments are not as clean sounding and the empty space around them is not so obvious. Background darkness is not so obvious. You get something that multiplies together. A little bit smaller sound, more congested, and a little bit less defined notes and their boundaries and their edges, everything just melts together more. And you listen to it, when you get used to it, it's a good amp. In isolation, it is a really good amp. In comparison with many other amps of its own price or maybe lower, it's again a really good headphone amp. But through a direct comparison, I've easily noticed how A90D is less congested, just has more empty space, more air. It feels like music and sound breathes more easily. And everything inside of the sound stage is more easily followed. If you have two musicians close to each other, they will be separated better and you will more easily follow, for example, one guitar from a bass guitar or something like that. And I have to tell you, it's intoxicating. When I first started listening to A90D, I thought to myself, yeah, this sounds good, but I don't really notice a big difference. I don't really notice why would I wish to pay this premium compared to already great A30 Pro. But after using it for a week or two and then going back to my old reference, I was like, yeah, I know now. It's definitely noticeable. And in some songs with emphasized atmosphere and space, echoes, reverbs, things like that. Let's take this song, for example. It's a great song. This song just sounds more spacious. It breathes more easily. There's bigger space around you. Details are more easily revealed in that type of space, but not in a sharp way, not in a edgy way, if you think about details that way, but simply everything is more easily noticeable and observable when it's layered better, separated better. And finally, bassline is actually controlled better. It's grippier, it's cleaner through A90D. So if you listen to a really bassy song, once again, it will sound more decluttered, equally punchy, equally weighty and deep as A30 Pro, but with less bloom, less haze, and just simply cleaner and speedier, tighter sounding. And I have to say, I like that. I like how neutral, powerful, well layered, focused, but not in a sharp way, not in any sort of analytical or annoying way. It's just really neutral, really nice sounding, dynamic, grippy, controlled with lots of drive sounding headphone amp. And I'm sorry that I don't have any pricier headphone amp at this time to compare it to, but as I said, it will stay with me and everything else that comes my way will be compared to A90D. So stay with me on this channel, keep following reviews and videos, because I do make this kind of web where I compare everything to everything. And the more videos you watch, more comparisons with devices that you're potentially interested in you will see. Which is also quite convenient for me because I'm telling you watch more of my videos, which you should definitely do. And with that, it's time to end this video. Comment, like, subscribe, consider becoming a patron, and thanks to all of my patrons already. It's a small bunch, but high quality bunch, because they know what's good. Thank you for watching this and see you next time. Bye.